Good evening. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of the Morristown area and the Women's Club of Parsippany Troy Hills, I'm pleased to welcome you to our virtual forum tonight for the Parsippany Troy Hills Mayor debate. My name is Donna Gariglia. I am the president of the League of Women Voters of the Morristown area. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. Empowering voters, defending democracy is our message. Elections and voting are core concerns for the League. We are committed to providing fact-based information about issues and positions candidates take on those issues to help voters make their own decisions and participate in our electoral process. We envision a democracy where everyone has the right, the knowledge, the confidence, and the opportunity to participate. The League of Women Voters never supports or opposes candidates for office or political parties. Any use of the League name or footage from this debate in campaign materials or advertising of any kind, including internet, social media, cable, or television, is not authorized by the League of Women Voters. Membership in the League is open to people 16 years and older of all gender identities. With 100 years of experience, the League is one of America's oldest and most trusted civic nonprofit organizations. Partnering with the League in this forum, we welcome the Women's Club of Parsippany Troy Hills and thank Joan Garberino for working with us. We are grateful for the nonpartisan participation and support and look forward to continuing our work with them. I'd like to introduce Joan.
Thank you, Donna. As Donna said, I'm Joan Garberino. I'm president of the Women's Club of Parsippany Troy Hills. Our club, which was incorporated in 1954, is a non-political, non-sectarian organization with a mission to provide a common meeting ground to bring together the community for fellowship and service. We participate in activities which benefit the educational, cultural, and civic betterment of our community. Our club is a proud member of the New Jersey State Federation of Women's Clubs and the General Federation of Women's Clubs. We are very pleased to co-host this virtual debate with the League of Women Voters of the Morristown area. Many thanks to both candidates for participating in tonight's event and to the voters for taking the time to watch.
Thank you, Joan. We encourage everyone to go to vote411.org, a one-stop site for information on all aspects of voting in New Jersey with information about all candidates up and down the ballot. And please visit our website at lwvmorrisarea.org and the New Jersey League website at lwvnj.org, which addresses the latest in all voting concerns. All forums conducted by New Jersey Leagues can also be seen on the New Jersey website, lwvnj.org, as well as vote411.org. This forum is being live streamed on the Morristown Area League YouTube channel, and it will be available for viewing afterwards. Our next virtual forum is tomorrow night, October 15th at 7 p.m. for the Parsippany Troy Hills Council. And then on October 26th at 7 p.m. is the virtual Morris County Commissioners Forum. At this time, I would like to introduce our moderator, Sharon Steinhorn. Sharon is a League-trained monitor who is not from this voting district. She will now introduce the candidates and outline the format for this evening.
I can't hear her.
Sharon, you're on mute. Sharon, you're on mute.
Thank you. I thought you were doing that, but here we go. Thank you to the League of Women Voters of the Morristown area and the Women's Club of Parsippany Troy Hills for inviting me to moderate tonight. Let me just give the rules to the people who are watching because the candidates certainly know them, but I'll review them for the watchers. This forum will have 3 parts. The first one, each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement, and they will be asked in random order, which has been determined before the start of this forum. Second part, questions. And voters have submitted questions in advance of the forum. Those questions have been screened to avoid redundancy, to ensure relevance to the office, to eliminate any personal attacks, and certainly to provide a broad range of topics. Each candidate will be given the opportunity to respond to every question if they so choose, and responses are limited to 1 minute. And each candidate will be given the opportunity for a 30-second response, rebuttal. The third part would be 2 minutes for each candidate to have a closing statement, will be offered in reverse order of their opening. And of course, it's a chance for the candidates to sum up their positions and why you should vote for them. And we also have a timekeeper since each answer is timed, and the candidates have seen how it works. When the candidates have 30 seconds left, there will be a sign up for them. Thank you, timekeeper. And when it is time for them to stop, they will see the stop sign, at which time we'll certainly let them finish their sentence. And so let's meet the candidates. And in alphabetical order, please wave hello to James Barbario. And the other candidate for mayor is Michael Soriano. And now it's time for opening statements. And we did our random picking, and Mr. Soriano is giving the opening statement for 2 minutes first.
Well, thank you, Sharon, and thank you for moderating. And I really want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this. This is a very important civic activity. And I want to thank all the viewers for getting online to take a part of your government and how it's run and knowing how things are done here in Parsippany so you can make an informed decision. I would also like to thank Donna and Joan for their involvement, and Joan for leading up the Women's Club of Parsippany, and Donna for leading the league. Thank you so much. I really wish we could have done this in person, but here we are in COVID doing what we can. So before becoming mayor 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, I was an electrician for 25 years. And one thing I learned as an electrician, it was an ethic when you became a foreman, you don't leave the job until it's completely done, even if you're the last person working with your tools. I've done a lot here out of my toolbox here in Parsippany to get a lot done. I've worked on infrastructure improvements, working on our water and sewer pipe infrastructure, working on generators. So we're with 2021 type weather events that we have. I've worked on public safety with our police department, who I'm so proud of, that do a great job protecting our township, and working on quality life issues as well. And I want to make sure that that progress continues, because we've stopped the use of budget gimmicks and are having an open relationship with our taxpayers. So thank you so much, League of Women Voters. I'm happy to be here, and I'm proud to be mayor of Parsippany, and I'm asking you for 4 more years so I can finish the job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Soriano. And next, of course, we ask James Barbario for his opening statement.
Sure. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event and the women's clubs for sponsoring it. And having lived in Parsippany most of my life and having served 8 years as your mayor, I know many of our residents, but for those of you who don't know me, I would like to share a bit about myself and why I'm running. In 1964, my parents, my sister, my brother, and I moved to Parsippany. In 1969, my 10-year-old brother passed away of cancer. And why do I mention this? Because I experienced at an early age what it truly means to be part of a special community. So many residents, some whom we knew and many whom we didn't know, supported my family in a time of need. That is what a community is all about, coming together to support one another. That is Parsippany I knew, and that's the Parsippany I strive to achieve for our future. I'm blessed to have been raised in Parsippany. I'm a proud graduate of Parsippany Hills High School. Parsippany is who I am and where I'm from. When I became an adult, I chose to live in Parsippany, and I'm glad I did. Parsippany is my home, and its residents are my family. I'm running for mayor because Parsippany is broken. Just this year, under Mayor Soriano, water rates spiked 39% and taxes increased nearly 17% in 4 years. Over the last 4 years, Mayor Soriano squandered $23 million of total surplus that I left him. The fact is, we cannot afford 4 more years. We deserve a mayor with a proven track record of keeping taxes low, under the 2% cap, filling office spaces, attracting good businesses to town, fixing our broken utilities, restoring our surplus, and supporting our community organizations. I am that mayor. I have accomplished these objectives before, and with your support, I will do it again. It doesn't matter to me if you're a Republican, Democrat, or an independent. I'm here to serve all the residents. Tonight, I look forward to answering your questions, sharing my vision for Parsippany's future, and drawing contrast between me and my opponent. So thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your opening statements. And I'll just say to the audience that we determined ahead of time that we were going to be a little more informal. And so from now on, I will be calling on our candidates by their first name with all due respect. And the first question is going to go to Mr. Barbario, to James. Got to get used to the first name. And there are a lot of questions about development. And so we're going to start out with this one. Are you satisfied with the current zoning requirements, or would you work to change them?
Well, as of right now, if you know, in the past, as the mayor of Parsippany Troy Hills, I was very involved. I'm on the planning board and stuff like that. And I would have to sit down with our planner, our professionals, to go over the zoning rules and regulations, because it's very important. As you know, Parsippany has grown a lot since 2017 when I left. There's been a lot of development that's been approved. You're looking at 1,000 units, and you times that by 4, and that's 5,000 units of housing, multifamily housing we're going to be getting here in Parsippany. We would have to look at that, but we have to also make sure we're in line with the municipal land use laws and the regulations. And yes, I would be open to looking to see how we could bring in smart growth, not just smart growth, and good development for Parsippany Troy Hills.
Okay, thank you. And same question, Michael, are you satisfied with the current zoning requirements, or would you work to change them?
I am working to change them, and I have worked on that the past 4 years. There are 2 key things to note, is that first off, the Waterview project that was done under the Barbario administration was a project that the township was very much against, that people were against, where we knocked down green land, okay, not redeveloping land, knocked down green land to build this strip mall. Also, the mayor did nothing to address the affordable housing mandates, and instead put the power into the developers on what they can do. Under my administration, we stopped that, and now these developers we've reduced the number down to 25% of what was Mayor Barbario's original number, so it's a lot lower on the affordable housing mandates, and we are responsibly addressing this, so this way we can keep Parsippany safe from lawsuits from developers. If you ignore it and put your head in the sand, it's not going to get it done.
Okay, so the second
Can
question.
I respond? Can I rebuttal?
Yes, you can.
That's okay.
Rebuttal. 30
Mr. Soriano
seconds.
says Waterview, but what Mr. Soriano doesn't tell you is that there would have been 666 unit of housing on that property. The township didn't own that property. I tried to purchase it with Open Space Trust Fund money, but we were denied it at the county level. You got no affordable housing. You got a state-of-the-art. You went from revenues for $128 a year to almost $1 million a year in revenue to the township. And that's what increases your ratables.
Rebuttal?
Let me, well, okay, go ahead. 30 seconds. Michael?
Once again, he speaks about Waterview, but he didn't look at the entirety of the town and the affordable housing mandates that are court mandated. And that if we don't address these and address them responsibly, you're putting the power in the developers, developers that he's very friendly with. You're putting the power in the developers to do whatever they want and run roughshod all over this town. It's something that we've seen so much in this town under the Barbario administration, and we cannot go back to that.
Okay, the next question, let's start with Michael. It's almost a follow-up, but it's a little more general. Can you tell us what are the guiding principles that you apply in residential rezoning?
Well, first of all, the first thing I did, and thank you for that question. The first thing I did when I walked into office was to commission a new master plan so we could look at what Parsippany's future is. We knew that we wanted to make sure that we protect as much open space as possible. So that was a huge priority, protecting our open space and protecting our neighborhoods. There were certain projects that we did not allow because it would have required green land being taken down. And we wanted to make sure we preserved open space, preserved our parks, and most importantly, make sure that our residents have a quality of life. That's why people move to Parsippany. I've lived here 20 years, and I moved here because of the parks, of the recreation that's available. And I know I wanted my family to enjoy that, and now I want every family to enjoy that.
Thank you. James, same question. Can you tell us the guiding principles that you apply in residential rezoning?
Well, first of all, the guiding principles. I know Mr. Sarand has stated that his administration went through the master plan and stuff like that, but what he doesn't tell you is Parsippany has seen in the last 4 years the most residential development that's going to be coming to Parsippany in the history of Parsippany with regards to that. When I was the mayor, I vetted a lot of these projects. I sat down with the developers. And you have to work hand in hand with these developers to make sure the project is good for Parsippany. There's 11 projects right now that have been approved under the Sarian administration that's going to build out Parsippany to an extent where we're going to have to build new schools. We're going to have to build our infrastructures. He talks about his infrastructure. The infrastructure is going to be affected, and so was your resources of police and stuff like that. So we got 6-story buildings coming to Parsippany. And I had no 6-story buildings coming to me when I was the mayor.
Rebuttal?
Thank you. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Michael.
So again, Mayor Barbario, again, ignored the affordable housing mandates, and they needed to be addressed. I wonder what he would have done with 4 years ago, what he would have done to the lawsuits that would have come at him with affordable housing because he had not addressed it. Not only that, it would have been 4 times the amount that I just lowered it to, down to 25% of the affordable housing mandates that were not addressed under his administration. Sticking your head in the sand and ignoring it and lawsuits is not the way to go.
Okay. Could I rebuttal the rebuttal?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Nobody stuck their hands in the sand, Mayor. Nobody stuck their heads in the sand. The fact of the matter is that, okay, I left office in 2017. You took over from that time, and we're seeing a massive amount of development in Parsippany.
All right, I'm going to start with James. This is a little more specific about the development. Do you support rezoning the 13-acre wooded lot behind St. Christopher's Church for 155 units? It's the big question of the day.
It is a big question. It's a good question. Right now, that application is in front of the Zoning Board of Adjustments. So it really is not appropriate for a mayor to be making comments when a application is in front. But if a ordinance, in the way of an ordinance, came in front of me and the council to rezone the property, I can look at the application, and it's like right now, it's trying to fit 10 pounds of a banana in a 1-pound bag. I would not vote for the ordinance change or rezoning.
Okay. Michael, same question.
I have to be careful what I say because I am the mayor of Parsippany and I can't afford a lawsuit. I will just say this. That area behind St. Christopher's, we had the council and the mayor all agree that that was not a necessary project for the affordable housing. That's part of the affordable housing settlement that we had with the courts. It is not zoned for affordable housing. It is not a needed project. Whether I want it or not is not the issue. We did not make it part of the affordable housing plan. So that's my answer there on that. It is not a needed project right now in Parsippany, but that is up to the zoning board.
Okay, thank you. Let's start with Michael. This is also on a very specific piece of property. Do you support or oppose the redevelopment taking place at the Stanberry project, 1515 Route 10, all of Campus Drive and other sites?
Thank you for that question. This project was conceived and approved, and the pilot was initially approved by the Barbario administration. So right now, I didn't think it was a great project or a great start to it, because I did not approve of the pilot, but I was stuck with it, and we had to keep going with that pilot. I think pilots should be applied more to commercial buildings, not to residential, because fire districts and the schools get cut out of that. But since we were stuck with it, I made the best that I could do with it. And you would really need to ask Mayor Barbario, because this started under his administration. We were able to at least cut the number down of how many people, how many projects and apartments were there at that site, at Stanberry site.
Okay, thank you. And yes, it is James. Do you want me to repeat the question?
No, I clearly understand the
Okay.
question. First of all, there was no pilot program approved by administration. There's no signed contract. There's nothing. But there is I think, and I believe there's a signed contract of a pilot program with Mayor Soriano that we tried to Oprah, and for some reason we couldn't get that information in a timely manner, which I don't think I've ever received. But that's beside the point. The point is that the project over there, when I left, I did not, we were looking at pilots, we were looking, but there was never, ever an approved pilot to go forward. That property over there, you know, I don't know what happened since I left. I know that the commercial market was oversaturated and the plans changed. And it went back to the planning board, which I may say the mayor doesn't even sit on. He has somebody that takes his place to sit on there instead of, you know, being on the planning board. So I can't tell you from that point on where it's headed, because the mayor's, he said it, that we're taking what we got. So there must be some sort of a signed agreement with the township for a pilot program.
Thank you. Next question.
Rebuttal?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, so there was a signed agreement for a pilot back in 2016 or 15, I believe. I could get you the documents if you'd like to see it. And what we did was we could not get rid of the pilot. I tried so hard to get rid of the pilot. What I did do is make them give us more money, because I negotiated and negotiated harder than your development lawyer did, and made sure that we got a bit more of our fair share. Because what I'm hoping to do with the additional pilot money we got was at least help the Board of Education.
Okay, thank you.
Rebuttal.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
And from what I understand, you did nothing to help the Board of Education out. And back, let's go back to the, so you're saying you didn't sign it. So if I can show a signed copy that you approved the pilot, I will show it to you.
Okay, let's.
Rebuttal.
Hold, if you have anything else, it's one rebuttal. If you have anything else to add, you can do it in the next question or in your final comments, okay? Moving on to the next question.
So I just muted both of you because we had to stop that conversation.
I'm unmuted now.
Okay. Yes, well, yeah. Okay, can we go on?
Yep.
The next question, we'll start with Michael. What are your ideas for using vacant properties in our town?
My ideas for using vacant property right now is redeveloping them. And in some cases, you know, when we look at the Onyx properties off of Route 202, who's a fantastic community partner, they paid for our fireworks this year. The Onyx properties is, we were concerned that they would try or even approach to make them into apartments. They are sticking to the business model of redeveloping them, making them a bit more attractive, and people are going to be able to see that on Halloween when we have a trunk or treat in that area there. But they kept it as office space and as commercial office space. So that is the idea that I prefer.
Thank you. James, your ideas for using vacant properties?
Well, vacant properties, first of all, the township doesn't own the vacant property. It's owned by somebody. Obviously, you have to address the situation to transform some of these properties. They're obsolete, they're older, they're outdated. And of course, you'd have to find a plan that fits for Parsippany and for the community.
Rebuttal?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Rebuttal,
I-
30 seconds.
Back in 2017, Mayor Barbario broke ground twice on a piece of vacant property up in the Powder Mill section. It was for a park. When I came into office, we asked for the land from the developer that was going to donate it, and the developer will not allow us to test the soil on where we're going to build a children's park. We found out through history that it was a construction staging area and might be potentially dangerous for children. Yet Mayor Barbario just was going to take this plot of land that children would have a park on.
Thank you.
Rebuttal. Rebuttal.
Oh, okay, 30 seconds.
You
rebuttal.
gotta expect it. First of all, every project that I had park-wise, Mayor Soriano reduced it. It had nothing to do with the developer. It had more to do with the fact that he took over as mayor, and I guess to be spiteful, he decided not to give that piece of land or make it a park. So that's really what it comes down to.
Thank you.
Rebuttal?
I think you've rebutted already.
Okay.
Okay, so save it. Just 1 second. Let me get off of this. Okay. We're actually going to move a little bit. And I'll start with James. If we continue to build more residential properties, how do we provide an adequate number of classrooms?
Well, that's really more of a question for the Board of Education member. We don't supply classrooms, but you have to take that into consideration. One of the perfect examples would be the Enact project, where you're going to see, and you know what, I'm going to go back to the Waterview project because Mayor Soriano brought that up before. The Waterview project, you had 666 units that possibly could have went there. You were looking at 120 school-age children that would be living in that area, which would have outnumbered the school district over there, Intervale, where the township, not the township, the school board would have to make a recommendation if they wanted to build another school. When it comes to increasing enrollment, it's actually the school board that makes that decision. And anything like that, with like a school being built, has to go to referendum.
Okay, thank you. Same question. Michael?
Well, first of all, the township, again, does not have purview over schools. However, the township can help. And there is land potentially in Lanadex. And I think the township could work together with the Board of Education to help acquire some land. There's also, I'm willing to go to the School Construction Authority and speak with people there about helping us acquire land here in Parsippany. So this way we can build more schools, especially in the Powder Mill section that has absolutely, it's like a desert there as far as grade schools are, and something is needed. A school up there would reduce traffic on Route 10, which is a major concern of mine.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to rebuttal.
Yes, you may.
He brought up the piece of property on Lanadex. Well, during the hearing, the property I believe that Mayor is talking about is Building 700. Building 700 was agreed upon at the planning board meeting not to build, that would not be built, that would reduce the impact in that area. But from what I understand, they're eyeing that building and that piece of property for possibly a school, which means it will be built. So which means the residents in that area were not told the truth.
Okay. Next question. Let's start with Michael. I like this. I walk from one of your constituents. I walk in wooded areas around town and I often see a lot of garbage. What are your plans to keep the parks clean?
Well, first of all, our parks and forestry staff works very hard to keep them clean. And not only that, what we started last year, we started doing, this year, we started doing cleanups of our parks where we have volunteers coming out and doing it. We also have volunteer organizations that are doing Adopt a Street, that residents are actually going out there and volunteering and picking it up. The other thing that we need to do is There are more things we need to do with sanitation, with securing our garbage lids that the Department of Public Works is looking to do towards the future. So this way, on windy days, recycling is not blown all over the streets. That's what I'm looking to do, and making sure that we continue to clean up Parsippany like that.
Okay, thank you. James?
Yeah, so,
Clean parks.
okay, clean parks. Well, I've been to many of the parks. In fact, some of the parks are in very good shape. I cannot say enough about the Parks and Forestry Department. They work hard around, year round, and a very good crew. I was the mayor there, and I got to work with them. But I would like to add something with regards to clean parks, and I think the question is also lower the Lake Hiawatha section of Parsippany, where I'm from, and over the past few years, it's really been in a pretty bad shape. It hasn't been maintained the way it should be maintained. When I was the mayor, I made sure it was maintained. Also, the benefit is the fact now, since I've been out of office for 4 years, I'm also a recycling coordinator. And there's a lot of things that we can do with the clean communities when hopefully I get back in to be the mayor.
Okay,
Rebuttal?
thank you. Yes, sir.
Actually, Lake Hiawatha section is a priority in my administration as far as a downtown area, and cleaning it up has been a big priority. Also, investing in it with a new library, investing in it with newer sidewalks. Okay, it's something that's a bit more modern. And not only that, for the Lake Hiawatha area, we're going to be opening up the reservoir along the Knoll Road area for a hiking trail next year. We're going to break ground on it very soon. And soon the whole area will be opened up. So
Thank
we're
you.
working on it.
Thank you.
Rebuttal. I'd like to rebuttal that.
Yes, sure, go ahead.
With
Not
regard-
surprised.
Wait, he's going to
I know.
rebuttal a rebuttal?
Yeah, no, I asked the question.
James.
I was asked it. You rebutted me. The fact of the matter, let's talk about the reservoir. That whole project started under my administration with the mayor of Jersey City when I was the mayor. And, we had an agreement, but of course, Mayor Sereno took over, and I'm glad that he proceeded to move forward with it. With regards to the streetscape and stuff like that, of course, I did the same thing. And hopefully that we have the funding to do it, since the budget's in such bad shape, to do the projects that need to be going forward. Even with grant money, we still got to match it.
Okay, your time is up. Thank you. Moving on, starting with James. Parsippany suffers from way too much paving over permeable land, which increases the threat of flooding and water pollution. What plans do you have to balance development and maintaining a safe environment?
That's a good question, and I'm glad you asked me that question. With regards to the impervious coverage, and as an administrator, I work hand in hand with the township engineer, and we find ways, and we will find ways when I get back in as a mayor, because as an administrator, you're really in more depth, you're really more involved with the township as well. You have to work hand in hand with your engineer, because your engineer is the one that's going to tell you what types of impervious coverage. And then you can also, I'm on the green team. You can also look at ways to make all certain types of rain gardens and stuff like that, to make sure that you have the flow of the water that goes through the aquifers.
Thank you. Michael, you want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Parsippany suffers from way too much paving over permeable land, which increases the threat of flooding and water pollution. What plans do you have to balance development and maintaining a safe environment?
Well, first of all, we started a green team in Parsippany last year, and we are working towards carbon neutrality and are committed to making our town carbon neutral by 2030, which will certainly help our stormwater management. We also changed the stormwater management zoning laws, which include permeable surfaces and increasing the amount of permeable surfaces in our township. We have seen the effects of floods in our township. I have experienced a flood myself in the township. Mayor Barbario remembers this back in 2011. So stormwater management is very important to our administration. We have prioritized it, as we have prioritized the environment as well, because it's all works together in hand. And with carbon neutrality, thank you to my running mate, Judy Hernandez, heading that up. We will be there by 2030.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving along, starting with, let's start with Michael. As mayor, what specific policies will you enact or have you enacted to improve the transparency of town government?
Thank you. Well, I'll tell you, one of the first things we did is we made sure that we reformatted the website and made sure that it was accessible to all people, and are working towards making it accessible to people with sight and hearing challenges as well. We are also making sure that on Fridays, we make sure we send out email blasts letting people know exactly what's going on. We've been doing video as well to on Facebook to let people know what activities and events are happening. And as far as transparency, we make sure that Oprah's and any questions that are asked are answered. The Mayor's Action Center has been extremely active in answering questions. We're answering hundreds of phone calls in a year, that thousands really, and solving problems every day.
Okay. James, what specific policies would you enact to improve transparency for town government?
Well, when I was the mayor, I thought transparency was working very well in Parsippany. In fact, the mayor, the website that I had, the mayor, I thought was very transparent, very user friendly. In fact, the website got the second best website of all municipalities back in 2016. Well, that site was taken away. Let's talk about transparency. During the budgets, I always tried to get the working budget. I always had the working budget online for transparency, so people can see. Even though it was a working document, you would put a statement up there saying that this is not the final product. That was taken away. There was I couldn't get a copy of it. I tried to get a copy of it. So the transparency there is pretty much gone. Of course, now that you're in the video stream, you're in the video world, it's a lot easier to come out and get the point across what's happening in Parsippany, and that's what I'm going to do.
Okay, thank you. Michael, in what specific ways are you working on a bipartisan basis for the benefit of Parsippany?
Well, I'll tell you, one thing we've worked through in a bipartisan way was the affordable housing mandates, where you had 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats all voted unanimously to make sure this affordable housing program went through. That is not an easy thing to do, but working together with council and working in a bipartisan way to do that. So this way it puts the power on us, on the township, where the developers and their lawyers can't sue us for trying to add more numbers to affordable housing. That's something that was not addressed in the previous administration. That's something that we address now.
And James, how would you work to on a bipartisan basis for the benefit of Parsippany?
Of course, I would. Everything that I do would be in the benefit of Parsippany in a bipartisan manner, no matter what. When I became the mayor in 2010, I didn't let anybody go. I kept Democrats, I kept Republicans. And, I felt that, hey, listen, we need continuity, and it's not your title, it's how you work that was always important to me. It didn't matter what your party was, it just didn't. When you work with the council, of course, yes, sometimes things, it's good to have checks and balances and stuff like that, but I would definitely work in bipartisan manner with anybody that's on the council when I become the mayor. Because you have to do the work of the people, the work of Parsippany, and that's the most important thing. The residents have suffered long enough.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to start with you, James, on this next question. Might take a minute for you both to think about it. Since both of you have served as mayor or are serving as mayor, what is one mistake that you believe you may have made while serving as mayor? And in hindsight, what might you have done differently? Mr. Barbario,
I'm
let's
first,
start
right?
with you.
I'll tell you, not to be egotistical, sometimes it's really hard to think what you did wrong, because a lot of times you have to make decisions that are pretty much based on what's best for the township. And every decision that I've made when I was mayor, I didn't make it on the benefit of me or the benefit of the people. I made it on the benefit of the people, or the council was on the people all the time. Mistakes, you know what? Maybe I could have done things differently in certain ways. You know, you learn. I was a freshman in 2010. Of course, the next year I learned, you know, I'll give you an example. We had the flood in Lake Hiawatha, as Mayor Soriano said. And it was a very devastating time in Parsippany. So the following year, I said, you know what, maybe we didn't do things as fast as we should have done them. I changed it. I moved forward, and short and heck, in 2012, we had Hurricane Sandy, and everything worked like clockwork. And I was proud of that moment.
Thank you. Michael, same question.
I think it's best to make sure you don't make mistakes when you have natural disasters. And, you know, learning from them is important, but getting it right the first time is important. When things and events like that happen, I'm usually up late. I'm usually at the Office of Emergency Management or on the phone with DPW all night just to make sure that things are safe and everyone is taken care of. And I will tell you that have so much pride in our volunteer first responders, our paid first responders, our police, our fire, the Office of Emergency Management, rescue and recovery squads that do so much to protect this township. It makes me proud to be your mayor.
Okay.
And just one rebuttal.
Yes, sir.
It's not a really rebuttal. It's more so the fact that, yes, we have a command center. I was in the command center during the storms. I was up to 5 in the morning, didn't go to sleep. Why? Because Parsippany is the town I grew up in. It's my town. Parsippany, and my story is Parsippany story. It's the bottom line. And like the mayor said, kudos to all our volunteers, rescue, recovery, you name it, all of them. They're magnificent during these times.
Okay, thank you. Well, as long as you were talking, you mentioned the police and rescue and so forth. I'm going to go out of our order and ask this question, and I'll ask it to Michael first. Apparently there's some complaint from a resident about speeding. What will you do about controlling speeding on town roads?
Thank you. One thing we did in 2018, when I came in, we looked at the police deployment schedule. And I did this myself because managing people and deploying labor is something that I know how to do. And I saw that the chief at the time, the carryover chief, had not looked at putting officers. He put the same amount of officers in every shift, not putting the officers where the crime was happening, where the speeding and the offenses were happening. And so I redeployed them. So I will say this, that crime in Parsippany in 2016, you had about 560 crimes. This is according to the state police crime stats. And in 2017, Mayor Barberia's last one it was almost 600 crimes. Once we did the redeployment in 2018, at the end of the year, it dropped to slightly over 500. And then in 2019, it dropped to 440. That's what I did. That I made sure we put people where the crimes are happening.
James,
Yes.
how would you be controlling speeding on town roads?
Well, first and foremost, that is as the mayor, you're director of police. You set policies. You don't direct the chief what to do. And I guess the chief he was talking about, I'm not going to mention his name, is a very good chief. Knows what he's doing. And knows a lot more than what the mayor knows on how to handle the township. The fact of the matter is, you know, I'm getting a lot of messages from people. I get my car's being broken into. This is happening. Last night I got a text message with a camera on, someone trying to break into somebody's house. You know, you can go around and say crimes down under him, under me. The bottom line in 2016, the FBI statistics ranked Parsippany the second safest town to live.
Buttle?
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Yes,
Michael.
in 2016, you may be able to say that, but I made it even safer when you had crime stats at about 560 in 2016, going up to almost 600 in 2017, and I reduced it down to 500 in 2018 and about 440 in 2019. In 2020, down to 366. Okay, Parsippany is a safer town. We're using modern policing practices. We are instituting body cams, as well as getting ourselves an accredited police department, which lowers our insurance.
Thank you.
Rebuttal.
30 seconds.
Mayor, first of all, it's not you that reduces the crime. It's our police department that reduces.
Yes, it is.
It's our men and women that reduce it. It's not you, and it's not me. So, I mean, you got to stop saying me when it comes to the police department.
Okay, moving along. Here's the question. We understand that property taxes are primarily driven by both the town and school budgets. To minimize tax increases, what specifically would you cut or reduce from the town's budget? And how much saving might you be able to recognize from that? And James?
Well, first I'd have to look at the budget. I have to scrutinize it because, first of all, the one thing I would do if I become the mayor, I would start off with a zero-based budget. I would scrutinize every line on to see what kind of spending there is and hopefully reduce that spending. And if we can reduce that spending, what do? You increase the revenues. And that's one way, and that's what's the most important part is to reduce your taxes is by increasing revenues and reducing tax expenses. Okay, so that's one of the things I would do first when I become the mayor again. And there's other ways. You have to increase your ratables. You got to bring in businesses. You got to bring in, and that's one thing I was proud of. When I became the mayor in 2010, we were losing ratables. When I left in 2017 and 16, we got the first ratable increase of $1 million. In the following year, $30 million. And that's one way to save money. And that's one way to reduce the taxes for the residents.
Okay, Michael, same question.
One way to reduce the taxes is to make sure you spend the taxpayers' money smart and transparently. Under this mayor, in his time, he squandered about and used budget gimmicks to the tune of $9.5 million of water surplus and sewer surplus. Now, this was all this all culminated in about $3.5 million being used in his last year for a fake 0%. Okay, just to get reelected. It was a budget gimmick that obviously did not work for you. And this is $9.5 million that could be invested in our water and sewer, which we're doing now. Okay, and this is to fix all of the stuff that you ignored because you kept raiding the water and sewer funds. So at a tune of $9.5 million. Okay, that is a lot of money that could have been used in water and sewer and to keep our tax rate low. And it has given us an artificial tax rate that we're still paying for.
Thank you.
Rebuttal.
Rebuttal, I'm not surprised.
First and foremost, Mayor, I got to tell you, you got your numbers wrong. I left you with $23 million in surplus, 23. So say I use 9 million, that leaves you 14 million left. Well, where did that go? I can tell you where it went. You overspent the budget. It is obvious in 2020, if you look at the audit report, you exceeded the appropriations, which is illegal, by the way. You're not really allowed to do that, but you did it. You exceeded, you overspent. I spoke to many auditors. I explained everything. I showed them the reports. I went all the way back to 2010, 11, 12.
James, your time's up. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. Okay, a few more questions still. How do you stand when it comes to mandatory fair share fees for lake residents? And if you do not support it, how do you propose lakes to maintain and support themselves? Start with Michael.
Thank you. First of all, with going back to Mayor Barbario's rebuttal, I'd like to jump back to that again, that he spent $9.5 million that should have been from the water and the sewer. He robbed Peter to pay Paul, okay? Paul is happy, Peter is not, and right now we're paying for that. As far as mandatory lake fees, look, I understand the need to maintain these lakes because they are of usage and need when it comes to stormwater management. But I think there are smarter things that could be done to make the payments easier or even waive them for seniors, for veterans. That's the kind of thing I would like to see for the lake fees. Again, this is not the purview of the township. These are private organizations that are allowed to charge these fees. But I would like to work with these organizations to help reduce the burden on the homeowners.
Thank you. James, you have an opinion on
Yeah, I
the
do. I'm going to
mandatory
go back,
fees?
but I'm also going to go back to the sewer surplus and all that stuff real quick. With regards to him saying I use the surpluses, he did the same thing. 2007, 18, 19, 20, he used sewer surplus, brought it to the current fund. Not only did that, he also used it to give fake revenues to the water and sewer by putting anticipated revenues into the sewer treatment, into the water, showing that it had numbers that it wasn't even actual and real. He said, I squandered 9 million, he squandered 23 million. As for the lake, you know, it's a really touchy situation for the residents because like the mayor said, there are seniors, there are veterans, and a lot of them are on fixed incomes. It would be, you know, and for the township to handle the waterways and all that kind of stuff would be an albatross, would be a lot of money to run that. I just hope that the lakes and their residents can come up with a, you know, an agreement that works for everybody.
Okay. Moving on to the
Rebuttal?
next question.
Rebuttal?
Okay, yes.
Okay, yes.
Rebuttal, Michael.
Now, again, when it comes to the water and sewer, okay, fund, we have now cut off the township's addiction to what you started as the water and sewer Peter robbing Paul model, okay? We are now doing it straight out and we're investing in our infrastructure and we're being honest and open with our taxpayers. Instead of doing budget gimmicks, we've cut that out where you do, you know, these fake election time budgets.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna move along. Can we move along?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm gonna rebuttal
okay.
it, you know.
Okay, let's ask James, what is your position on the Highlands conformance? And as an outsider, would you please explain a little bit about what that is? That was a question.
Highlands conformance. I guess the township's conforming to it because when I was the mayor, we didn't conform with the Highlands. I guess you opted in. So the mayor opted in and listen, I mean, there are some areas that Highlands is very beneficial, like Hunterdon County and stuff like that. The only thing I get concerned about is the fact that with Highlands, does it restrict smart development? I don't know what it does that, if that does that in Parsippany, but we can't restrict smart development for Parsippany. We have to protect the waterways. And, you know, I did that by preserving 150 acres of open space when I was the mayor. So, you know, that's one of the things you got to look at.
Okay, Michael?
Yes. Well, first of all, yes, Mayor Barbario pulled us out of the Highlands conformance. I put us back in. It was a promise that I made sure that I kept. Highlands conformance is helping us address our stormwater problem areas with smarter stormwater management. It does slow down development, Mayor Barbario, which is something we need to happen here in Parsippany. So the slowing of it down makes sure that it's smart development and these are done as permeable services. You're talking about earlier about putting permeable services in Parsippany, yet you want to take us out of Highlands conformance. Highlands conformance helps us with that. Not only that, there's grant money involved from Highlands that are going to help us streetscape some of our townships. So being in the Highlands is very important. You took us out of it just to make it easier for your developer friends.
If I may rebuttal, first and foremost,
Yes, yes,
I
sir.
didn't say I was opting out of it, Mayor. That's not what I said. I said I have to look at it when I get back in office, and I will.
Okay, thank you. This is going to be the last question before we go to your 2-minute closing. And let's start with Michael. What is your plan to attract new business to Parsippany and keep the current businesses here?
Well, thank you for that question. Well, certainly keeping Parsippany as an open and green area, keeping it clean, making sure that we have good housing. Our education system is strong by supporting and working with the Board of Education and making sure that it's safe, working with our police department, keeping our towns and our streets safe, our schools safe is a very important way to attract business. And right now, their businesses are coming and the ratables are going up. So thank you so much for that question.
James, what would you be doing to attract new business to Parsippany and keep the
Yeah,
current
well,
businesses?
Well, here's the deal. I'm going to address the situation by trying to transform our aged and obsolete buildings, and that's how you attract someone to come back with smart growth. And like I said before, sometimes pilot programs are beneficial and you can't ignore them, but they're not. Pilot programs aren't for everybody, for every project. I mean, I'll give you an example. UPS was going to go to Georgia, Marietta, Georgia. I wanted them to stay in New Jersey. So they built a state-of-the-art office building over on 100 corporate center over there. And it generates $300,000, $300,000 to $400,000 a year. That was smart growth. That's something I was very involved in. I did not want to see them move out of Jersey, and they came to Parsippany. It's going to be, going forward, Parsippany is going to be built out with all the development that's just been approved by this mayor. And I may say he doesn't even sit on the planning board. He doesn't sit there in front of the residents when they have a controversial application that comes in. Well, guess what? I see the stop sign.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, it is time to wrap up and give the audience and your constituents your best shot for 2 minutes. And we are going to start with James Barbario. Mr. Barbario.
I want to thank the League of Women Voters for providing our residents and, the Women Clubs of Parsippany with the opportunity to witness the contest between me and my opponent. But unfortunately, as you saw tonight, Mayor Sariano refuses to take responsibility for his own record. The fact is that he's a failed mayor. He's raised your taxes 70% in 4 years. He raised your water rates 39%. And once again, trying to blame everybody else. He points the finger at everybody. When he closed the recycling center just a few weeks ago, residents are going crazy. Who did he blame? The director of DPW. That's who we blame. He is financially irresponsible. He squandered $23 million in surplus in just 4 years. Imagine what he will squander in another 4 years. And I like to add, because since we talked about the $23 million in surplus, is the fact that I increased it 56%. He decreased it 100% in 4 years. Took me 8 years to bring it to $23 million. He's duplicitous on development. 4 years ago, candidate Sariano ran against development. However, there's been more approvals on residential properties in Parsippany in the history of Parsippany. So with your support, I will work with the council. I will put our financial house in order, cutting spending, increasing revenues, and building our surplus back up with smart growth. I did it before and I'll do it again. I'll work with our professionals and our community to repurpose our obsolete office buildings and to be productive revenue generators for Parsippany. I'll attract new businesses in the Parsippany and good businesses like I did with UPS. I'm serving all of our residents, Republicans, Democrats, and independents. We are one community. I have the experience and desire to fix these other problems, the plague that Parsippany has right now. I'm asking Parsippany residents for the opportunity to be your mayor again. On November 2nd, I ask for your vote for James Barbario for mayor, Justin Masella, and Frank Neglia for council. Before I say thank you and God bless, I would like to say this. I appreciate this forum tonight, and I have to stop. But God bless you all. And God
Go
bless
ahead, finish your sentence. You get.
Finish your sentence. I want to hear what he has to say. Finish your sentence.
I want to thank the League of Women Voters for this opportunity and the Women's Club. So thank you once again.
You're welcome. Michael Sariano, your 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. Well, it's been an honor serving as your mayor the past 4 years, almost 4 years now. And I'm humbly asking for another 4 so I can finish the work that I started here on infrastructure, making sure that our roads are repaved, making sure that our pipes are not seeping expensive water into the ground, and that the pipes aren't popping and reducing your quality of life just because you want to be able to commute and do it safely. I'm stopping, and I have stopped the budget gimmicks of the past, and cleaning up that financial mess is it's been a lot of work on that. Continuing on public safety, our police department has been doing an outstanding job on that, and I am here to support them, and I will give them the tools that they need to get it done. We have been able to put on body cams. We are now going to become an accredited police department underneath my administration, which will lower our insurance rates, which is very important. And also, it also makes the police officers better trained, giving them the tools that they need to do the job. And again, quality of life issues, keeping our families safe and secure, making sure that we do what we can to mitigate the floods and flood damage, and that we live in a township that we all can be safe in and have regular taxes that are just normal, okay, without these budget gimmicks going back and forth. So I really would like to thank the League of Women Voters for doing this. I really want to thank my two running mates, Corey Herbig and Judy Hernandez. Having the two of them as running mates is very important for me because of what they bring to the table. Judy doing so many things on the environment as an environmental engineer, Corey as a public safety advocate and as an attorney. I need them on council to help me keep Parsippany strong and to keep our pride in Parsippany. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. And thank you to the Morristown Area League of Women Voters and the Women's Club of Parsippany Troy Hills for working together to host and sponsor this forum. And thank you, the audience, for caring enough about your community, for watching tonight and submitting your questions. But most of all, thanks to the candidates who are willing and able to serve the community and want to continue to serve their town. But before we close, we want to remind you that there are three ways that you can vote in this upcoming election. One, you can vote by mail. Registered voters can apply for a vote by mail ballot by following the instructions found at vote.nj.gov. Deadline for applying for a vote by mail is October 26th. And when you fill out that ballot at home, you can use the US mail, a secure drop box, or return the ballot directly to your county clerk's office. However, vote by mail ballots cannot be returned to any early voting location or any polling place for this election. Just want you to know that. The second way, in-person early voting, very new here. This new option enables all registered voters to cast their ballot in person using a voting machine during a 9-day period prior to election day. And that starts on October 23rd and ends on October 31st. And then, of course, the third way to vote is the traditional at your polling place on election day, November 2nd, and vote in person on a machine is from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. on the 2nd. And for all these details about where the ballot boxes will be, the drop boxes and polling locations, use vote.nj.gov. You'll get all the information there. And lastly, I'd like to remind you that this is a significant election in New Jersey. It's only one of 2 states voting for governor. We're voting for our state senate, assembly, county officials, school boards, local leaders, as we looked at tonight, and we have ballot questions too. So your state and your community depend on your vote. So do it. And thank you and good night.
Good night.
Good night. Mayor, have a good night.
Good night, James.
Good night. How do you get out of here?
There should be a leave at the bottom of your screen.